Princess, congratulations on your wedding. Please live a gorgeous life," solemnly wished the maids. However, the bride was not at all happy about this wedding. A beautiful white castle, the exquisitely designed guipure on her veil, the silk dress that seems to slip off at any moment. The reality of the illegitimate, divorced child of the kingdom is like this. Today is not a girl's happiest wedding day, as this wedding is to the worst tyrant on earth, the emperor. The drunken father molested the maid, and that's how the protagonist of this story, Princess Sophia, was born. Although other people say that the girl looks exactly like the members of the Nabat royal family, beautiful golden hair with emerald green eyes. Because of this, the girl's mother left this world so early. Because of this, the girl was able to stay in the corner castle of the kingdom. But despite the fact that there were only 3 maids in it, the only thing that the protagonist could do in the palace, which she could not leave, was to read books that the maids bought her, and waiting to be sold. The book said that an illegitimate child, like the protagonist of the story, could be used for a political engagement or be sold for a lot of money. But if the girl was sold, she hoped that she could marry a nice, handsome Grand Duke in the north. However, things turned out quite differently. One day, the maids told Princess Sophia that the king wanted to meet with her. He asked the girl to appear immediately. However, the princess herself was completely unwilling to see the man. "Right now you have to go." "Wait a moment, let me go. What's going on?" The protagonist didn't understand. "Good news, my daughter. Congratulations, your husband has already been chosen." With tears of happiness in his eyes, said the king. But of course, Sophia was not at all happy to meet her father after all. It was the first time she met this man. "I know everything, even if he didn't tell me. Am I going to be sold to a talented, rich aristocrat like in the books?" Sophia guessed. "Rejoice! The wedding invitation has arrived. Your husband is Emperor Edward," suddenly said the king, after which Sophia fell into such a shock that could not be described with mere words. The girl knew that this man had become an emperor at the age of 16. In fact, the guy really didn't have the easiest fate. From a rather young age, he grew up without any attention from his father, although Edward himself hid the details of his life so as not to appear weak in front of the others. He was indeed a courageous and strong man. As soon as he ascended the throne, he hung the head of his relatives on the palace door, the craziest man in the world and a tyrant emperor. And only one man tried to stop him. They say he was dragged into the imperial palace. The palace staff tried to convey to His Highness that it was a grave sin to interrupt his lineage. However, Edward was certain of all his wrongdoings. "I assure you, if you tasted the poison that was fed to me, you wouldn't be able to even squeak in response. That's why I prepared it," said the man, and showed a small jar of the potion. It was the poison that Edward drank before he became emperor. "Try it. What's wrong with you? You seem to know how agonizing poison is. Then I give you a choice. Either you drink it or kill your son yourself," said the cruel man. After which, another member of the castle staff still had to draw his sword in order to end the young man's life. It was now clear why Sophia really didn't want to marry Edward so badly. He is a one-of-a-kind tyrant, and this man proposed to the young lady. I thought that if I were to marry out of convenience, I would marry a nice, handsome Grand Duke from the north. But it was an unattainable dream, but I still had a little hope. Why me? Tormented in conjecture, the protagonist. Now Sophia did not want to live at all. It was as if she had lost the meaning of life. All the dreams collapsed, and the girl knew that now you can only expect your own death. "It feels like the decision to get married was decided by lot. It seems he didn't plan to marry, but there are many people with ill thoughts towards you. Plus, he has no heir. They asked me to send them a healthy princess. And we have you," the father king then explained. At that moment, the girl got even more angry at her dad. "Where were you looking at? You monster! You want to kill your own child?" screamed the girl. "Oh, it's the Emperor's wish, so be careful with your expressions," asked the king in response. But Sophia's anger could no longer be stopped at that moment, though it wasn't surprising. "Do I look careful? Since when did you even treat me like a princess?" Sophia continued to say, but no one was listening to the girl anymore. Her other siblings could only sympathize with the girl then. Or rather, they didn't feel sorry for Sophia, since they didn't even know her. However, something had to be said in this situation, at least for the sake of politeness. "You know me. What on earth are you saying to your little sister whom you're meeting for the first time?" Even more angered the protagonist. So, as the illegitimate-born child of the kingdom, Sophia is getting married. Nothing could be changed anymore. Unfortunately, all the girl could do was just accept her fate, although the girl saw that all the wedding mentors were crying as they saw her off. "You will always be in our hearts, Princess Sophia. I will not forget you," the maids promised. Though the girl had not died yet she knew that she would soon. Sophia had heard a lot about Emperor Edward while she was at the manor, mostly how many people he had killed, and many gossiped about how long the princess would live there. And yet, after a few minutes, Sophia was already in a foreign kingdom. "I should at least die extravagantly," thought the girl before going up to the palace. How much resentment was in the lady's eyes at that moment. She had been locked in the palace while they pretended not to be, and now they were calling her away. Sophia knew that these people were doing just fine as they were. No one at all thought about her physical and mental health. "Princess, the Emperor is waiting for you. Please get down quickly," said the maid who met the guest from the carriage. "Yes, if I die anyway, I won't give up on them easily. I'm going to die anyway, so let's do something crazy before that," thought the girl at that moment, and told the maid that she didn't want to go. "I don't want to. Until His Highness comes himself, I won't take a step out of here," the proud girl declared. Sophia had always wanted to do something that would make people think she was crazy. Because to the girl, it seemed like fun. Like wearing winter clothes in the summer, or turning all the signs in the kingdom in the wrong direction, or like taking a bunch of food and throwing it all away. But the girl was still thinking about what she had just done. "I said all that nonsense to the Emperor so I wouldn't risk my life. I'm picking up flower petals, wondering where to go, right or left," explains the protagonist. "Forgive my heart. My brain and lips have gone crazy, so I guess it's hard to be the only sane one." Ironic scrolled ironically in the girl's mind. But just like other people wanted, marry an unwanted man, spend nights together, always live in anxiety, and one day die without a care, be buried peacefully. After Sophia's mother died, the girl was the only person who came to visit her grave. A sad future like her mom's. Sophia didn't want that kind of life. The girl thought it was better to live without knowing the date of her death. At that time, Edward had already been informed about what the girl had said. Sophia would not take a single step until His Majesty came. Just a second, I wrote it down, as the request was very long. "You will take me to the cathedral according to the custom of the kingdom, must change the white flowers to red flowers according to the custom of the kingdom. The servants must wear red headdresses, and the maids must wear wreaths according to the custom of the kingdom." It was stated in a letter from a girl for the king. Of course, all the servants were shocked as soon as they heard Sophia's insolence. The princess of the kingdom wants to forfeit her life? Has she lost her mind? Does she know whose favor she is asking for? Since she came to the empire, she should follow its customs. Why is she trying to teach us some stupid customs of the kingdom? The palace staff didn't understand. "Since I traveled a long way to here, if you won't even do that for me, then the emperor's heart is probably small," was what she said. It was also relayed by the servants. However, the king even laughed at such a narration in the letter. "Is it really true that the Nobbit kingdom has such rules?" The man decided to ask. The aides were still surprised, because they thought that such a bold letter from a crazy girl was just a challenge for war. But Edward was absolutely calm about such a thing. Didn't you tell me that we can only have wars 3 times a year? Good. Then I'll wipe out the Duchy of Ethery, the man declared, after which he silently stood up. Once the servants were asked where the emperor was going, they were even more surprised. Where am I going? I, a magnanimous husband, am going to go and listen to my wife's wishes, Edward said jokingly, but with absolutely serious intentions. Meanwhile, Sophia was sitting near the carriage, waiting for the emperor. The people around her continued to cast their strange, contemptuous glances at the girl. The atmosphere was indeed gloomy, but Sophia even liked it. Remember me, all of you! It's us, Nobbit! You don't like me, do you? After you chop off my head, please destroy Nobbit too. Am I not good at being a villain? Slyly, the girl thought to herself. When I wrote about Nobbit's customs, I was amazed at how easily they come to me. So what if I'm just realizing my mastery? I'm going to hell within the hour anyway. The protagonist calmed herself. I hope I go to hell next to the Nobbit royal family. There's nothing for me to do. Should I write a will? Sophia also thought absolutely seriously. Instead, I should have gone crazy after the wedding. If I did that, I could write a killer will. Scrolling through the alternatives in her head, the girl thought. However, just at that moment, her husband, Edward, approached her. The special customs of the Nobbit kingdom are never-ending, said the man. The girl was so thoughtful that she didn't even notice him approaching her. Beside her, Edward gently took the lady in his arms. This is the lord of the empire, after all, a tyrant who was said to be stronger than any man, a cruel man who knocked down knights with his bare hands, a man who treated a girl like an animal so she would bear him in air. And now he appeared in a completely different image. I didn't expect this at all. Why did I think the emperor would be ugly? Pondered the protagonist as she considered the guy's beauty. Now that I think about it, I've never seen a full portrait of him. After all, they didn't send a picture of him when they asked for my hand. Realized the girl. It wasn't until after Sophia had scrutinized the man's appearance that it was only a moment before she realized she didn't feel the ground as the man lifted her into his arms. Didn't you say that this is the custom of your kingdom? I'm doing what you asked me to do. Is there something wrong? Explained the man as he saw the many questions in the girl's eyes. You're not going to kill me? I come from a small kingdom, and I was chosen by drawing straws, and I demanded that the emperor come to me, carry me, and change the coloring of the flowers. I was talking nonsense. The protagonist spoke up in surprise. We didn't choose by drawing straws, but by rolling dice. We didn't look at the numbers, though. We looked at where the dice fell. Justified the man, but still he chose the girl without any consideration. In any case, the girl thought the emperor would be the only one with such a reaction, and was completely unaware of what was even going on. Now that I think about it, I should kill all the teachers that trained you. At that moment, the man said threateningly, after which he announced that they would complete the ceremony in 10 minutes. However, the registrar informed that it was impossible because they had to sing a hymn and pray to God. Just pray and sing quickly. What, you can't? You're a pop from now on. You look spry and good. If you can't, blame yourself, the man ordered. Sophia was still in shock. The new pop had broken the record and was being taken away due to fainting. In one breath, Edward recited all the prayers in an instant. I take that back. It's definitely not a tyrant rumor, Sophia wondered. Just then, the girl was greeted by her new maid. Hello, I am Maria, the new maid to your and the Emperor's Highness. If you need anything, please let me know. Eh? What's wrong with you, Your Highness? Noticed the surprised expression on the maid's face. After which, Sophia still decided to ask if it was true that the Emperor was actually a tyrant. Goodness, Your Imperial Highness. Why did you ask such a question? You will find out at night, quietly whispered in the girl's ear. It was indeed very ridiculous. No such thoughts could get out of Sophia's head now. I've been bathing and dressing up for so long, but the Emperor hasn't come yet. Compared to Nabat Palace, this room is more luxurious. Noticed the attentive girl. However, Sophia still didn't understand why the Emperor hadn't killed her yet. Shouldn't my kingdom be burned to the ground for all of this? If not now, then maybe in the future, or even tomorrow. Therefore, now is not the time to lie around like this. And the heroine realized the main thing. One way or another, I have to die. With the same attitude, I can eat all this fruit and drink all the alcohol. Oh, what is this? It looks very expensive at first glance. I'll get drunk. That's exactly what the lady decided. In the evening of the same day, the commander of the Knights of the RC Empire's Knights, Cain, appeared in the Emperor's office. About your recent order. I killed everyone who taught the Empress, reported the boy. You dealt with them so quickly? As expected from an army commander, my right-hand man. Praised the man, but that was not what Cain meant. They all died of poison. The treacherous humans had done something to them. Certainly they never warned the Empress, though Edward hated having people talking behind his back. Cain even thought that everything going on was part of their plan. Weren't you indifferent to the marriage? So that's why they couldn't see you either? So the conspirators had almost no opportunity to act. What about the Empress? Does Lisa seem to be good at swordsmanship, or is adept at poisons? The knight remarked. Interesting, she seemed pretty nice. Anyway, I have to finish what I have planned for today, explained the Emperor. It's going to be noisy tonight. I'm going to have an extraordinary night, narrated the man before leaving the study. At this time, Sophia was already under the influence of the strong drink. Her head was all swimming because of the large amount of alcohol she had drunk. The girl felt as if there was some kind of drug in her system. It was as if she was sleeping, slowly losing her mind. Princess, it's raining. Quickly cover up and follow us. Hurry up. Princess, why are you still outside? Her servants began to assure her. In a moment, the girl realized that she was in the place where she grew up. Ah, this is nonsense. It was just a scary dream after all, thought the girl, after which she began to exchange some rather unpleasant words about meeting the Emperor. But when she opened her eyes, she saw a shocked Edward standing in front of her. I've heard that a lot, but never to my face. This is new, admitted the man who was standing right in front of the girl. It wasn't until the moment Sophia realized that the half-naked guy was looming right in front of her that she immediately began to resent him. Then you want to be on top? Should I take my pants off too? The man jokingly asked. At that, Sophia couldn't tear her gaze away from the Emperor's pumped-up body. I thought he only had a beautiful face, but it turns out his body is just as beautiful. I can't help but fall in love. Still, no. The girl tried to quiet her thoughts. You slept me, you pervert Emperor. Yes, got me drunk. Even if you don't trust me, you still can't do something so dirty. The girl began to blame him. The man himself tried to explain to the lady that it was just some misunderstanding, but it was as if Sophia was completely unwilling to hear him. What, a misunderstanding? Here's a bottle. I don't need to explain anything. I bet you already know. I feel so weak after drinking. It's like I'm delirious and out of it. I'm short of breath. Even though you're the Emperor, it's a crime to do this without my consent, just like with drinking. The protagonist continued to be indignant. If you tried to charm me with your face and body, I would have given in. The girl also kept on saying. However, at that moment, she received quite unexpectedly an excuse from the man. It's not alcohol, it's truth serum. A truth serum and a very strong one at that. I wasn't going to use it on you at all, so why did you drink it? Should we finish what we started? The man decided to ask, before leading the girl back to the bed. Though Sophia was playing dumb, the girl herself knew exactly what she was talking about now. Face down, whispered in the girl's ear by her spouse before starting the ritual. Sophia decided not to disagree with this duke and silently turned around to lie belly down. From the newlyweds' room came feminine moans of pain. A maid who was passing by was sure the Emperor had let his guard down once again. This is my chance, die! Thought the maid before pulling out the blade of her sword. But as soon as the maid entered the room, she herself was hit by the knife. Things turned out completely differently than the assassin had hoped. The maid thought that she would easily plunge her sword right into the girl's body, easily ending her life. However, things turned out differently. It's impossible how he was able to defend himself in such a situation. The maid didn't understand, and in doing so, she saw that the man was just giving his wife a massage. Now Maria herself was now mortally wounded. It was, after all, the same maid who had become the new maid for Sophia, but now the girl herself was a murderer, and it was Sophia, not the Emperor, who was the target. The attackers had no time to react when the Emperor killed them one by one. They all died at the hands of the seemingly cruel and ruthless Emperor. Seeing the way her husband was killing everyone in a row, Sophia realized that the rumors about the Emperor being a monster were true. Now the girl had no doubts that it was better not to mess with this man and should always be on guard. Otherwise, also, one day may not wake up like all his previous victims. No one will even remember about the girl's body, because even close people do not really need her. The main heroine was so frightened of her husband that she decided to immediately apologize in order to stay alive, or at least die not from an agonizing death. I apologize. I dared to raise my head before you. Please forgive my rudeness. The girl fell to her knees. Seeing so many people die in front of him, I can't ask him just to kill me, thought Sophia at that moment. I don't like what I see. Suddenly the man replied in a menacing tone. The girl thought that she should bow even more. However, that was not what the guy meant. Just then, he stepped closer to the lady in order to lift her into his arms. What is he doing? Is he trying to beg me? I had a similar feeling when he carried me out of the carriage. Is he really going to throw me out? The girl was seriously frightened. However, the guy merely carried her in his arms in order to put her on the bed. That's better. Now we can talk about personal things. Think, it's awkward to talk when you're dressed like that, said the man, and wrapped Sophia in a blanket. A few minutes ago, while Edward was giving Sophia a massage, he heard strange noises outside the door of the room. As expected, I can hear the assassin's footsteps nearby. They're about to attack, noted the man before the maid burst into their room. It was a good thing everything was in order now, and the girl was safe. Still, Sophia decided to talk to the man since he was the first to suggest it. But it was on the guy's behalf that the first question followed. I'm going to start with a few questions for you, and hopefully you'll answer honestly. Your name is Sophia Fran Nobbit, is that correct? Your mother was a maid, and you were only mentioned as a member of the royal family because of your looks. But you've lived in a separate palace all your life, am I right? You spent time with maids, and your hobby is reading romance novels. Most of them are for adults. The man began to question, even though he already knew all this true information himself. Okay, let's finish asking about you. Why did you lie about Nobbit's traditions? So that I would come? The man then decided to ask. I just wanted to get back at those damn royal special Nobbit that spent me by sending me here. Straight to the forehead, Sophia said. The truth serum continued to take effect. The man decided to take a moment to ask the girl if she really hated him that much. Absolutely! Who in this day and age would even want to marry a crazy tyrant and take the train to hell? But if I didn't know you were an emperor, I'd tie you up and beat your pretty face. It also casually came out of the lady's mouth. Well, let's say you don't exactly hate me. And you're not wrong about your life being shorter. Before you became empress, the other royal families and ministers supported other candidates. And I killed them, one by my own hands, and the other by the hands of another man. Edward admitted in response. But I have come to you, so I'm going to tell you how you can survive. You have only one way to survive in this palace. Become a villainess and surpass me. In a completely serious tone, the man advised. After which the guy plowed Sophia so that she hovered in front of him. He did this on purpose, so that the girl would take on the role of the dominant villain. The next morning, all the palace maids were talking about the latest gossip. Those sounds in the night. Did you hear them too? Yes, there were moans and screams and death. In that case, who will take care of the Empress corpse? I think the loser will take care of it. The servant girls chattered excitedly, not even realizing that the girl was still alive. Don't make this a punishment! This is a chance to serve the Empress, so the winner will do it. The girlfriends told the maid who had to go face to face with the young girl's unbreathing body. The maid had already made serious preparations for cleaning up the body. She even picked up the brush and dustpan meant for cleaning corpses. However, at this time, Sophia herself was awakened by a ray of sunlight. Why did I suddenly feel so cold? Is it because I slept without clothes? Surprised the girl, not even remembering how it happened. At the same moment, a maid came into Sophia's room. How much the girl was surprised as soon as she saw the living Empress. As Sophia went through the morning procedures in the bathroom, she tried to remember what happened yesterday. The girl decided to start from the moment when her boyfriend offered to imagine her in the dominant image. See? It's really easy, isn't it? Who else do you think has the opportunity to be on top? You're the first. And you need to make the infamous emperor yours, and use him however you want. The man continued to narrate. That all sounds good, but how will that help me survive? Still decided to ask Sophia, who didn't fully understand what was going on. There are those who think you will become my weakness, and those people are my enemies. Edward tried to explain. They don't want the good-natured and the Empress on my side. They will want to attack me, and the good, honest Empress will not help them do that. They will try to kill and overthrow you. The man continued to narrate. But if word gets out that I've fallen head over heels in love with the villainess, they'll leave you alone until they're ready to kill me, don't you think? Clarified the Emperor. Don't worry. Even though you've never acted like a villain, I'll teach you how to do it, promised the man. I'll tell the plan in full later. We have something more important to do, said the man before kissing the lady passionately. As soon as the girl remembered this, back to reality, goosebumps covered her whole body. We did it. We really did it. And it felt so good. With embarrassment, the girl thought, and at that moment she recalled another fragment from the memories. The guy had confessed yesterday that he wished he could have stayed with the girl longer, but he needed to take care of the assassins so they could continue to go with the flow of their feelings when he returned. I thought a handsome, strong, brave, and kind man only existed in fairy tales. But he does exist in reality, and he's my husband. Still, the girl couldn't come to her senses. They say that the Emperor belongs to no one, but everything will be fine as long as no one finds out, right? The girl also wondered. Just then, a man stealthily approached from behind. Sophia was not ready to face him at that awkward moment, for the girl was completely unclothed. Your Majesty, what are you doing here? Wondered the protagonist. Is there a place in the palace that I can't enter? Then said the man, to which, of course, he received a negative answer. Besides, the towel was at the other end of the room, and the girl couldn't even cover herself with anything. However, the guy himself asked her not to cover herself when he was near her. It was then that the girl remembered the words of her maids. Why are we dressing you in transparent clothes? It's to prevent you from trying to do something in front of His Majesty. We can't have someone hiding weapons under their clothes, explained the maid. And it was not surprising since the Emperor was constantly in danger. Going over this in her head, the girl decided that the best solution would still be to not cover herself up, in order to convince the guy that she didn't have a weapon. After that, the guy did tell her to get some towels, though. I wonder, come to think of it, why is the Emperor here? Still, the girl wondered. Don't be nervous. I'm here to see if you're all right. The man decided to explain himself so as not to worry Sophia even more. Good. You don't seem to be hurt anywhere, so we can go ahead and get down to business. That's our first plan, reminded Edward. After that night, Kane decided to ask His Majesty how it had gone. It was quite interesting, really considering that those 4 assassins are in no way related to each other, thought the man. A lot less than I expected, much softer than I expected, and even somehow more beautiful at night, involuntarily admitted the man. Your Majesty, who are you talking about now? Surprised the knight. Initially, Kane thought Edward was talking about the assassin. Wait, so His Majesty is talking about the Empress? It wasn't until a couple seconds later that it came to the guy. Anyway, see for yourself. I found it in the body of one of the assassins. Do you know what the symbol means? Decided to turn the conversation to another topic, the man. The Silver Cross symbolizes faith, but it's the emblem of a secret society of Hollylands. And what's more interesting is that the first assassin didn't come for Edward, but for the Empress. And what Edward found on the assassin's body, it's unclear why the Hollylands poisoned the assassin. Attacking the Empress? We have to deal with that! Accurately understood the man. At this time, in the other palace, people were discussing their failure. We have failed! We deeply apologize, Your Holiness. Holly's members apologized. I see. The assassination of Sophia Fran Nobet has failed. This is not the only attempt. We can still wait for another opportunity. To revitalize this world, this is how it must be. Noted their superior. Your Holiness, the future you see will come to pass. Promised her knight and bowed deeply before leaving. Of course, in reality, their queen was actually extremely angry at the failed attempt to kill the Empress. Why can't these idiots do things right? The angry woman didn't understand. Can they even do anything right? I wouldn't have to go through all this torture if I had captured the villainess. But instead, I've become a minor character that can't even do what she wants. Angry out loud, the unseen girl was angry. That's right. This girl is a writer, the author of the book Villainous for a Tyrant. First, the girl was happy when she realized she'd been sucked into her novel. But when she realized she was in the body of a saint, she almost fainted. In the original, the protagonist came into this world, falling into the body of Princess Sophia. And the Emperor is attracted by the sudden change in her personality, and he begins to fall in love with her. Why? Why am I not Sophia? He's my male protagonist. He's mine. Virgin, good-looking, hot body, mean personality, hates grapes. I purposely made Edward all the traits I love in a man. The reborn girl continued to get very angry. Even if I wanted to meet him, in this story, the saints have to stay inside the barrier and pray every day. If I can't leave the barrier, I won't do anything. This made the girl feel even more resentful. There is only one solution. I'll kill Sophia and take her body. That will solve my problems. Then the saint came up with an idea. And then I'll get not only the main male protagonist, but all the men I like in this story. The reborn girl continued to console herself. However, she was still angry since it happened that Edward had already lost his virginity. I can't waste any more time. The traits I chose for him are disappearing one by one. I can't just sit back and let it happen, thought the girl. However, when she tried to make a barrier, she noticed that it was broken. It was all the power of love. But the reborn still wished to take over. Just wait, Edward. I'll pay Sophia and the world will be as it should be, the girl promised herself. At this time, Edward was already telling Sophia the details of the plan the man himself had come up with. Initially, his terms didn't please Sophia much. I can't do this. I never thought you had such plans. I knew trying to outdo you would be an impossible task. How could I be worse than the man who turned the forest into a wasteland, completely destroyed the wheat fields, and ruined the duchy's trade by sinking all their ships? Admired and yet frustrated the girl as she underestimated her own strength. How amusing. What else? Your ability to say things like that to my face useful on its own. The past 3 women couldn't even look me in the eye. Edward then tried to express his admiration for the girl's honesty. Then Sophia decided to ask if the man had slept with those girls. As it turned out, he hadn't, to which Sophia was glad. I don't know what you mean by that, but I need you to be perfect as Empress. We'll practice when we go out, Edward suggested. Meanwhile, the maids were exchanging new gossip. It seems His Majesty is completely crazy about the new Empress and won't even leave the palace. He has canceled all his schedules and hasn't taken a step out of doors, narrated one of the maids. What, I'm sure it won't be for long. Although I think she's quite beautiful. I wonder how charming she really is. People continued to whisper. Finally, the day of the Empress's first official introduction came. The girl walked out into the light, holding the hand of her companion, Edward. The people around her literally gasped at the beauty of the Empress. Yes, the Emperor himself beside the girl also looked excellent today. I'm sure everyone knows that I've gotten an Empress. I believe that you will be as loyal to her as you are to me. Edward spoke out loud. At least she wants to look like an Empress. But whatever she does, she won't last a week, thought one of the guests. However, what was the man's surprise when he heard the lady's bold remarks? So, Your Majesty, when will you show me what you promised? Sophia decided to ask the question. The people around noticed that His Majesty was avoiding contact with other people. Aside from that, the guy also drew his sword. It felt like he was about to kill the girl. At least that was what the other guests thought. I didn't expect you to ask for it so soon, pronounced the man at that moment in front of everyone. Ah, well, you said so before you came here. Said that I would be surprised to see it. Was everything you said about you having imperial treasure a lie? Asked the girl. Do you see? All of this is the imperial treasure. The man continued to speak, though the guests still didn't understand what His Majesty was even talking about. After that, Sophia continued to act fastidious and capricious right in front of everyone. People were shocked how she was even still alive after saying that. Why are they hovering somewhere now? The guests continued to wonder, looking at the newlyweds. After which, the capricious Sophia asked for more jewelry to be brought to her. The servants began to bring out all the treasures of the palace in a crowd. Is he really going to give all this to the Empress? This is already too much for my eyes. The statuesque man wondered. Everything was going according to Edward's plan. Sophia continued to pretend as if she was rather bored. The cheeky girl asked her emperor to bring something else more interesting. Has she lost her mind? Does she think she'll survive after saying that? Yes, these treasures are worth an entire duchy. Angry to himself, the man said. That's just for an appetizer. Now it's time for the main course. Edward summarized then, and the maid brought the ruby stone. After that, a diamond necklace that the mine owner had given to the emperor's girlfriend was in the lady's hands. No way! He even took out the Emerald of Alain, the first emperor, to give to the empress? The guests of the ceremony continued to disbelieve what was happening. Oh my God! Hundreds of legends are described in books about this piece of jewelry. Isn't it a gift from the Elf King to the first emperor? This jewelry is only meant for the emperor. Out loud, other people wondered. Empress, when I see your eyes, I think of this jewelry. It is exactly the same color as your eyes. Let it be your wedding ring. The man pronounced and placed the ring directly on the girl's finger. Sophia then defiantly took off the expensive ring and threw it on the floor. The ring hit the very neck of the vase perfectly. Gosh, the ring is so small that it slipped off so easily, marveled the girl aloud. People were still in great shock at such a believable spectacle. What did she just do? She threw away the Imperial Emerald Alain? Is she out of her mind? There's nothing brighter than that emerald. The empresses are about to be killed. Scrolled through the head of the head knight at that moment. Alain's emerald is the foundation of the empire's long history, and the girl just threw it away like that, causing the other guests to be just wildly shocked. Everyone around them was sure that the emperor wouldn't just leave it like that. However, when the knight picked up the ring to put it back into Edward's hands, the man threw the ring on the floor again. You're right, my dear. It's too small, Edward declared. Everything was going right according to the plan Edward had previously talked through with the girl. However, the man himself knew at that moment that Sophia was scared to death right now. After all, once he had told her earlier what the girl was to perform, she was unsure of her abilities. "Your Majesty, I can't, please. How can I abandon the treasures of the state you speak of?" the girl assured him. However, Edward explained that a different choice would be to die, so Sophia still chose to stay alive and just do as the man would tell her. It was just going to take a performance to make her whimsy look true to the other guests. "I never thought her arms were really strong, after all the talk about her not being able to do it. Turns out she's pretty good at something like this. I should match her," decided the man at that moment. What the submissives saw shocked them, to say the least. The emperor placed a huge sapphire ring on the empress's finger. Around her neck, a long necklace with giant pearls. He took off her old, thin earrings and replaced them with more massive ones decorated with a bunch of big horses. This continued on and on. A bracelet, more necklaces, and another ring. The jewelry continued to be brought out until all the jewelry the emperor had brought was hung on the empress's body. My goodness, how much is all this worth? An entire country? She's a walking treasure trove. Other people were discussing. "Darling, I think it will be hard for you to persevere with such a heavy load now. Would this be suitable as a wedding gift?" Demonstratively, the man asked. "I thank you for your generosity, Your Majesty. However, don't you think that newer jewelry would be better suited for a wedding gift?" said the girl. Her words turned the long and proud history of the entire empire into complete nonsense. The man who was watching this whole spectacle from the side just couldn't stand to stand by any longer. "Enough! I won't tolerate this anymore! Your Majesty! Even though she's the Empress, you can't turn a blind eye to this!" A man interceded. "In that case, why don't I conquer a neighboring kingdom next week and present you with some new treasures?" Not listening to his guest, Edward said to his consort in reply, "I will give you new jewels from the neighboring kingdom," promised Edward in front of everyone. At that moment, Sophia felt as if her neck and arms would fall off from the weight of the jewelry. But the girl realized that she had to endure to the end, or else the guy would punish her again with a massage. How about the Tethan Kingdom? They have a green stone they call Tethan Forest. It's huge and an unprocessed piece. The kingdom's greatest national treasure, narrated the man. "I will get that stone and make a ring to fit your hand," promised Edward clearly, and yet asked the girl if it would be enough for her. At that moment, everything was coming to a close. Sophia realized that they were almost done with their play. One more line left. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty, but I have 10 fingers, and I've heard that the latest fashion is to wear 3 rings on each finger." Unexpectedly, the cheeky girl added to all the guests. Finally, Sophia was able to return to her room after all this theatrical completion. "I did it! I thought I was going to die, but I made it through. I'm probably good at this sort of thing. Thank God! I won't have a painful massage after this," sincerely rejoiced the protagonist. But actually, what happened afterward wasn't so bad. After a few minutes of privacy, a servant came to the girl. "So what's up with the Emerald Alain? It's already old, but it's a national treasure after all," Sophia inquired. As it turned out, the emerald broke when Sophia threw it on the floor. Because of that, the girl was very upset and even cried. The man still had no way to calm her down. "Wouldn't you cry in my situation? You know better than anyone that the Alain Emerald isn't just a stone, but I threw it." The girl continued to be hysterical. "I think my throw did more damage than yours," to comfort the girl, Edward said. But after all, Sophia knew that those who would dare to harm the Alain Emerald must remember what was in it. This emerald is not a gift. The reason the Elf King gave it to the humans, it had something even the elves feared sealed inside. Because of this, Sophia was even more upset. She told the boy that she would cry for at least another whole day. "Then I have no choice. There's only one way to make you stop crying," said the man, and slowly started undressing the girl to repeat his ritual. It really worked. After a few minutes with complete peace inside, the girl fell asleep. But as soon as Sophia closed her eyes, next to her, everything shone around her with a green color. There is something frightening hidden in the emerald, something that even the king of the elves fears. And if it's destroyed because of me, it's my fault. Corroborating herself the girl, however, then she heard someone's voice. "Get up! I said get up, you rascal and cruel man! Pay up!" As it turned out, a moment later the girl saw a small man flying in the air. It was an elf. That same evening, the emperor was approached by his chief knight. "Ah, sir, has Her Majesty calmed down a bit?" inquired the fellow. But the emperor decided to get to the point and wanted to ask a question about the job. "And so, what do we know about these movements?" inquired the man. "Exactly that, sir. Instead of killing the Empress immediately, the goal will be to get closer to her to gather information about you," told Cain, and then Edward was convinced that everything was going according to plan. Their screams would echo through the palace in a week. At that time, the very same saint was already regretting writing the story. "To get the curse of using holy power for my desires, I almost went to the afterlife while I was spinning the roulette wheel," recalled the author of the story. "Right. Now is not the time for that. While I'm worrying about something like this, my Edward's purity is being defiled. Exactly. I need to infiltrate the palace, so what should I do?" Completely unaware of the girl reborn into a saint. But just then the saint passed sweetly by two gossipy girls. The girls were talking about recent events. If the woman His Majesty married is really a villain, then she should immediately go to the capital to open his eyes, said the girl, whom her friend addressed as Irene. At that moment, the author of the story realized that the real villain of this novel, Irene, was in front of her. The girl realized that this was really what she needed to act right now. "Do you need a partner?" Immediately the saint asked, not wasting the opportunity. Meanwhile, the emperor continued his conversation with his knight. Anyway, when the conversation ended, the main topic was the Empress's maid of honor, Shared Cain. "Yes, sir. Since the Empress has no close friends among the nobility, an election will have to be held to find one. That's what the anti-imperialists are trying to accomplish," the knight said. However, the emperor himself didn't really like this idea, as a crowd of enemies would gather here. "Do you need a partner? Do you need a maid on standby to do secret missions when needed?" continued the already on her knees, coaxing the saint. The girl knew, after all, that she was the one Irene needed right now, so the woman could not refuse her. The saint was planning to use Irene to infiltrate the palace, though the woman herself would die as soon as the saint became empress. A few hours later, Sophia continued to spoil herself and act like an insolent villain. The lad was then forced to take his wife in his arms to carry her to her bed. That day, when Edward accessorized the girl, he did it for fun. Now, however, the girl demanded that she wanted the gems and as many as she could get. But apparently the one who gave me the name Alain was a born elf. It is believed that I was his shadow, or perhaps his alter ego. So I lived with the first elf. So he was the only one I knew. And to be honest, everyone was either human or vile creatures, and all so horrible I didn't even want to talk to them. A human like you might not know, but elves are very sensitive. They freak out when they see ugly creatures. Narrated Sophia's elf that same day. "That's why we only live in the forest with our own kind. All ugly people are sinners. You humans sometimes talk nonsense when you say you look like us just because you have 2 eyes, 1 nose, and a mouth. But humans are all the same, right?" The elf continued to grumble that the girl was even falling asleep. It had been a full 4 hours of minute conversation with the elf. At first, the girl thought it was worth listening to, but it was like there was no end to it. The elf himself continued to tell the story of his entire lineage. The girl didn't even understand why she even wanted to know it anymore. So I signed a contract with the spirits and bought this ring. I paid off the debt every month for many years, and I only had a few more years to go. That's why I was glowing from the inside out. The elf continued to tell. Well, as soon as Alain saw the girl droop after his story, he was even glad. It was just what he needed, though in truth it was really true that the stone shattered because of the Emperor's jerk, not the girl. But this type is intimidating, and this is definitely a black steel blade. All black steel blades were taken away by the elves when they left this land. So why does the human have it? One touch of the blade is enough to kill body and soul. They say the sword was created from the accumulated darkness of the First Age. Just wielding it is enough to kill those around you. The elf knew perfectly well. However, the guy also knew the fact that mere humans couldn't forge the sword, so the puzzle didn't fully add up in his head. Who cares? I'll get it back with the help of someone the Emperor seems to care about. Alain decided to act. You're in luck. I'll forgive you as soon as you pay me. That's right. For the money I've paid so far and the money left over, compensation for the psychological damage caused, also for the money I decorated the house for. All in all, 10 million gold coins in one payment, said an obscenely large sum of money to the elf, after which the girl immediately rushed to the other room. She told Edward that she and the elf had come to an agreement. Yes, must find a stone that would be valuable to him. Maybe this one? Sophia began to suggest. Edward was already pissed off that the elf was refusing every stone the girl offered, so the man pulled out his ball blade to threaten Alain. Hey! Human is trying to kill a spirit! I'll curse all your descendants! That's my specialty! Just then, the elf was startled. Edward was so angry that the elf had taken so long to pick out his stone that he was actually about to finish the little creature off. One night, Sophia asked her emperor to put the sword away. I found what I need, said the girl and smiled. The girl slowly approached the boy to kiss him. However, at the most welcome moment, she pulled away. You won't have me until you give me what I want. The stone you promised to give me, the Tatina Forest. I want it. Right now, declared the protagonist, and the man listened to her. The day came when the maid of honor had to be chosen. The servants reported that they had already prepared everything. 50 dresses had been sewn by the castle's most famous designer. Lots of new jewelry created by His Majesty's order. The maids were working hard to dress up and tidy up the Empress. It even seemed as if they were working too hard. Are you out of your mind? Considering how she treats aristocrats, what do you think she'll do to us? At the break, the girls were talking to each other. However, one of them replied that Sophia was still treating the maidservant well. Because she doesn't even consider us as people. Would you punish a comb for tangling your hair? Another girl said in response. At this time, Sophia herself happened to overhear the man's conversation. Sounds good to me. Wasn't going to have offspring anyway, said he to someone in his office. Sophia was actually surprised to hear this, because originally the girl thought that Edward was looking for an empress to possess an heir. But it seems that the guy has absolutely no plans for him. At one point, the girl even got upset about it. I know a child isn't necessary to become a family. I feel stupid when I think about the future. Tried to calm herself down the protagonist. Then why did he say he would give me the stone without a second thought? If he doubted, I rebuked him with a lie, and I'll be angry all day. Still, the girl hesitated. Sophia was pretty sure Edward liked her. If you ask me, he's impotent. I can't help it. Based on what we've seen, that's the most logical conclusion. Even suggested the elf. Emperors that I know of usually have hundreds of mistresses, but in Edward's case, you are his first proper wife. Don't you think he might have a problem? Said the elf, after which the girl seriously wondered. However, it was still time to go. Besides, Sophia was so tired of talking to this elf that she wanted to get the stone as soon as possible in order to shove Alain back there. Either way, choosing a maid of honor was the priority right now. There were already many girls gathered in the waiting room for the maid of honor candidate. One of them, Emma, thought she was the best among those girls. There is no better position than the Empress's maid of honor to know what's going on inside the castle. It is important to our family. You should be chosen as maid of honor, Emma. The girl scrolled through her head. Of course, I'm not going to stop there. And thanks to my proximity to the imperial family, I will find out what made the emperor fall in love with the empress. And then, after kicking out the powerless empress, I will become the second empress. And there won't be a third. I will kill them all. The girl decided for herself. Even though I have a supporting role, my looks, and even my style, I'm a perfect fit. I'll look around here for now, Emma thought. It was then that Emma noticed a quiet girl sitting silently off to the side. I hear she is the daughter of the Margrave of Khan, summoned from a distant land. I think her name is Tanya. Our whispered to Emma another candidate. The humble girl came from a very distant land. Who would have thought that someone would come here like that? Apparently she decided that wearing a large stone would be enough. Poor thing! The other girl continued to call her names. Who knows? It doesn't look like she'll choose just one maid of honor. Even if she does, it doesn't mean she'll really get picked. Emma speculated. She'll probably go back home and spend her free time bragging about her time at the castle. The girls gossiped. The girls continued to gossip. A few minutes later, a servant burst into the room. The man reported that Empress Sophia had arrived. As soon as Sophia entered the room, the girls immediately noticed her beauty. Anyone would call her an empress just by looking at her. She's really something. She's coming. All right, when she sees me and stops, I'll greet her, the cocky girl decided. However, the empress just walked past Emma. When Emma turned around, she saw Sophia talking to the very same quiet girl. Sophia was already getting acquainted with Tanya. What's going on? Why is the empress interested in this foreigner? Surprised the girl. As it turned out, candidates for the role of maid of honor needed gems to attract the attention of the empress. At this time, the saint was traveling together in the same carriage with Irene. Irene was just reading a newspaper about the empress needing jewels to attract her attention. Irene herself thought that the newspaper was printing lies. I know I created it myself, but it's strange. Irene Lev, fragile, poised, and the only daughter of a famous scholar under the emperor. She has a high intellect and a wide circle of friends. She is too deluded about Edward, thought Saintess, looking at this character. Impossible. If I, the emperor's childhood friend, cannot bring him to his senses by allowing him to know the taste of other women, I thought he would thus realize that he loves me. But this has gone too far, reasoned Irene aloud. The point of her character was that she had helped the emperor in the past, and he in turn had been generous to her. This would be mistaken for love. The author didn't think of that when she wrote it, but seeing it firsthand was another thing entirely. Madam, look! It looks like it takes jewelry to get you noticed by the empress. The saint started the conversation. However, Irene explained that she didn't need it since it wasn't important for the girl to be chosen by the empress. I will personally appeal to His Majesty, the Emperor. I will meet him at the castle, Irene assured. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Tethan, Edward massacred a lot of knights. Hey you, get undressed, strip so I can get rid of the blood. That's when the Emperor asked the random guy. Now Edward really interrupted everyone around him. Even when the one who was still breathing was found, Edward was finally finishing off the guys. However, the king then stopped the guy by giving him the very same stone in return for stopping killing knights and the kingdom. You monster! How can an emperor break into a foreign country and steal its treasures? How is that different from robbery? The king didn't understand. You say I have no reason, right? Etheri County. You know better than anyone what you've done since your alliance with them, don't you? Edward decided to press the sore point then. You thought I wouldn't find out about you sending your soldiers to them? Cadia, which is deep in the mountains. The people there all wield weapons made of silver, which means I was your target. Only one man is defenseless against that silver. Me. In fact, Edward narrated, speaking of reasons, I think that reason is more than enough. The man added lastly. However, at that, Edward said not to be afraid of the king smashing an entire kingdom into ashes. That would not happen today. The Empress is waiting for me. I have to go. Don't sweat it so much. I have the stone now. I won't mess with Tethan. Kadia has already been taken care of, so give those corpses a decent burial, asked the Emperor. And I won't tell anyone that the great Master Knight is your son. That's not a bad deal for you. Don't ask me how I found out. Before leaving, the man said, in fact, a father who cares so much about his son, Edward would probably never realize it. Meanwhile, Irene had already met up with His Majesty. However, as soon as the guy saw the girl, he immediately ordered the servants to take her away from here, even though she had traveled a long way. She's still missing here, the man thought before meeting his consort. Now he wondered what she would say to the fact that the boy had brought her the gem. Edward decided to go into her room to hand her the jewel. At this time, the girl was feeding her new friend, Tanya, strawberries. Before Tanya left Madame's room, the knight explained to the maid of honor that he had to examine her. Those were the orders. However, Sophia explained that she had personally asked Tanya for something, so the knight was free to go. Seeing the package in the girl's hands, the knights thought that the Empress was taking all of Tanya's jewelry. They thought that the girl was really a villain, though in reality, there were only books in there. Sophia was very grateful to her new friend for bringing all the novels the Empress had requested. I didn't know you liked romance, too. Tanya, it feels like angels sent you, rejoiced Sophia as soon as she saw the titles of the books her friend's friend had brought. When you first looked at my books and said you had read them, I was scared. I am happy when you are happy, Your Majesty, sweetly replied her friend. That's what you reminded me of. Try this. The strawberries are from the palace greenhouse, and they are very, very tasty. Say A, the girl asked, and gave a piece of strawberry to her friend Tanya. However, just at that moment, the Emperor joined the girls. The guy was also interested in this berry, so Sophia shared it with him as well. Since the Emperor returned to the mistress, Tanya had to go home. Lastly, the girlfriend told her that tomorrow she would bring an even better collection. The girls whispered some more before Tanya left. They talked about their own girlish things. What's maid of honor bringing you that you're so excited about? The man immediately inquired as soon as Tanya left. However, Sophia didn't want to tell him such personal details, so the girl lied that she was always so cheerful, even though you chose her quite recently. But from what I can see, you two have become very close. You didn't even need Tethan, the man remarked. Of course! Tanya is so great, and she saved me from Alen. If it wasn't for Tanya, that elf's chatter would have driven me crazy, the girl admitted. Though all Tanya had done was only bring the family jewel, this girl really was like a lucky girl. You can imagine how he chattered and chattered. He wouldn't stop saying that you were impotent, even during the maid of honor election. Oh, Your Majesty, those were Alen's words. I had nothing to do with it. The girl accidentally misspoke. At the same second, the guy firmly pulled her by the arm in order to plop her on the bed. That's what he said? Edward asked rhetorically before getting down to business. Meanwhile, the girl reborn as a saint continued to explore the world. She returned with her purchases after a trip to the store. The cooking here is awesome! How happy I am to have created a restaurant right in front of the palace! Okay, enough fun, the girl decided and went to the dungeon. The girl went there to pick up Irene. What's taking so long? The woman got slightly angry as soon as she saw her assistant. Forgot? You said you hadn't seen her in a long time and had a lot of things to sort out, so I took my time. The saint excused herself. That's true, but I don't like you blaming it on me. But before Irene could even finish her sentence, the saint fed her a bun. Madam, you didn't eat anything while you waited for me in the dungeon. I bought them thinking of you when I was looking around the restaurant near the palace. They are the most popular treats in the palace, told the girlfriend. For me? But that's whatever happens. His Majesty is having fun as it is. Still, Irene said, and spoiled her mood even more with it. When he saw me, he was in no mood and ordered the guards to take me away. What's wrong with him? Still didn't understand Irene. What do you think is wrong with him? Clearly, he's fallen in love with Her Majesty, the Empress. Of course, it's possible. He didn't like you from the beginning after all. The saint thought to herself. She knew the whole story through and through, since she was the author of this world. The only reason the Emperor was so lenient with Irene was because of her father, Duke Leo, who had helped him regain his humanity. Besides, they have the same blood running through their veins. So I've prepared the carriage, so you should rest in the residence today. Once we get back, I will mock the Empress to your heart's content that you will feel better soon. The saint promised. Go on until I calm down. But still, why is His Majesty behaving like this? Has the Empress bewitched him? Certainly she is so lovely that it seems that whoever looks at her will fall in love. Also, I hear she's getting prettier every day, Irene said in a fit of envy. It was so hard for the saintly heroine to hear this that she even decided to go out for some fresh air. After all, this girl originally wanted to be with the Emperor, and now some Empress was taking her place. Damn it, who asked me to write something like this? My story should have ended with the transformation of the main character. Now Sophia would have not only looks, but even connections and a growing reputation. And whatever she did, everyone would say, "My God, Your Majesty, how did you do that?" I knew it. I had to get Sophia's body as soon as possible, because it must all be mine. The author of the piece had clearly decided to herself, if I want Sophia's body, then she must die. The saint thought. And on my way back to the palace, I saw the ambassador of the Duchy of Eti. This is how it must work. This is my chance. This is what he brought, the egg of redemption. And this egg of redemption will hold Edward's power. The reborn girl knew. And then she will attack Sophia. That's the way it has to be in the novel. I can't miss this chance. The girl realized the complexity of the situation. I must get to the palace today, no matter what. It's the only way to get the world back to normal. The author decided for herself. Meanwhile, after a passionate night, Edward decided to call the elf to reprimand him for spreading false facts about the man. And what am I supposed to do about your forgiveness? I just finished unpacking and getting used to my surroundings. I wonder how I can talk so much when I should be worrying about the house. Edward pondered aloud. You're right. I wonder about that, too. I've been hiding in the stone, but I still haven't realized what happened. Alain actually thought. The elf only heard, while he was inside the stone, the loud moans of the girl. So Alain knew that the Edward had quite a lot of strength. If he had a weak body, he would lose all humanity. But why the towel? If it goes down a little more. Don't throw my stone. If you destroy my house again, I'll definitely become a vengeful spirit. Are you sure you need that curse? Alain tried to threaten him. I have black steel blades, so I'll destroy you sooner. Edward replied to him in a calm tone. Alain was actually surprised by this fact. Such a strange emperor. He is too strong for a human. Besides, the man is using black steel blades that humans can't use. The only person who could use black steel blades with Edgar's blood. Once the elf scrolled through all of this in his head, the whole puzzle in his mind came together finally. Emperor drank Edgar's blood? And I wondered how an ordinary person could use a black blade. So that's what this is all about. The elf guessed it himself. Then, didn't anything happen to you after you drank it? Most people either die or become monsters, Alain said from his observations. Ah, so that's why you don't want kids. You think so they won't be monsters. Ah, so I'm saying you're not impotent. The elf continued to say, plunging himself further and further into danger each time. I'm sorry. I'm certainly not saying anything else. I'm curious because it's been so long since I've seen anything interesting. I know a little about Edgar's blood. I know that many souls have disappeared because of it," confessed the elf to divert Edward's attention away from bad thoughts. "You don't know much, but you seem to know something," realized Edward perfectly. "Why would I? What do you want to know? If you keep me alive, I'll find out everything you want to know. I promise. I'll go to the spirit world and find out everything. Please," Alain asked, and then he and the Emperor agreed on a mutually beneficial contract. However, Edward still asked the elf not to tell Sophia any of this. And also the Emperor ordered him to stop his ramblings about impotence. Right after the elf back home, Edward quietly sat down next to the sleeping Sophia. "For some reason, when I'm with you, I don't hear voices anymore," the man then admitted aloud. "By the way, I think I was wrong. There's no way the Emperor can be impotent, don't you think?" The next day decided to tell Alain for Sophia. Well, that very morning, her spouse came into the girl's room to discuss their future plans. There was something the girl needed to do for tomorrow's ceremony. "Cain will take care of the details, you don't have to worry," the Lord also added. However, before the knight entered the girl's room, Edgar went to her closet to pick out her clothes and jewelry for today. "Do you like these clothes, Your Majesty? Then I will change right away," decided the girl as soon as she received a favorable response from the man. "What were you doing there while I was waiting here?" asked Cain as soon as the Emperor along with his wife left the room. However, now was not the time for that, so the knight began to tell what they wanted to talk about. "First, let me tell you about the ceremony that will begin as early as tomorrow. While exploring the ancient ruins in the Duchy of Eteri, a mysterious relic was found. It will be brought here to be offered to you." The Emperor's chief aide spoke first. "I don't know what they are up to, but considering that we are talking about envoys from another country, we need to treat it more carefully than the events of the country," explained Cain. "Your assignment is to do your best to hurt the pride of the Eteri delegation," the man also said. Duchy of Eteri. The longtime nation was close to the Empire and remained loyal to Edward throughout his tyrannical reign. It was rumored that he even brought his childhood here, and that was why he still enjoyed a close relationship with them. That's what I heard, but he still wants me to hurt Eteri's delegation pride. And I have another task for you, but I'll tell you later on, pondered the girl in a moment. She still didn't know what such an assignment from Edward could be. Also, Sophia noticed that His Majesty seemed to be in a bad mood. "Oh, His Majesty, if you can handle it, I'm sure he'll be happy," said Cain to Sophia. After which, the girl sent her room to read the duties of the Empress. There were indeed a lot of them. "Yes, as I say, they are foreigners. I wrote down how you should greet people during the reception and the order of everything when meeting them," the man explained. But now Sophia didn't even understand how she was supposed to memorize all this information. The girl had gotten some instruction before the wedding, but she still had a long way to go to Master Palace etiquette. Need to work on that. And besides, Sophia has a maid of honor after all. Then the girl guessed that she could find another maid of honor who knows palace etiquette. Then this communication would not only be pleasant, but also useful for Sophia. That afternoon, Tanya received a letter from her family. "If you don't come home now, I will find you and kill you myself," wrote her mother through the letter. As it turned out, the address of the letter was wrong, so it was held for a week, because of which Tanya became even more restless. The time came when the girl had to meet guests. It was obvious how nervous Sophia was. She had not fully learned all the rules of etiquette, so she was worried. However, the guy supported her as he knew that the girl would be perfect. "As representatives of the Duchy of Eteri, we extend our greetings." The first to say hello were the guests. "On the day of respect, we would like to present a relic. Forgive us, but the Duchy of Eteri comes right after the arch in terms of size." Still, the guest apologized. "Ah, really? It's a pity they didn't bring fruit from some kingdom. I'm not interested in countries that don't have jewelry or fruit, you know," the girl said in a calm tone. "Of course I know the Duchy of Eteri. It's the largest after the Arch Empire. Doing so, is it really normal? Pondered at that moment, the girl who was lying right to the face of her guests. Still, Sophia had to continue lying for the sake of her own safety of their plan. It turns out that the Duchy of Etheri has nothing that interests my empress. Then a man intervened in the conversation. Sir, what we brought is far more valuable than anything. It was found in an ancient dungeon. Its role was not fully fulfilled. The aide began to narrate. It's not covered in dust all over, is it? Was it washed or something? Sophia decided to say jokingly. I'm afraid the Empress is disappointed that this is not what she expected. You may go now. I must comfort my Empress. The man immediately stated. However, that aide still stopped Edward. In a moment, the girl also noticed an unusual and inconspicuous man among the delegation. Then the girl remembered how Edward had asked her to tell her about it if she saw such a fake assistant. Then the girl immediately pointed out that it was the same person, and Edward immediately drew his sword. Among the crowd lurked the saint. She knew that today she had to take possession of the girl's body, so she was watching everything that was going on carefully. As it turned out, Edward thrust his sword right into Richard, the Lord of the Magic Tower. As soon as the saint saw Richard, she didn't understand why this character was even here right now. He is, after all, the second main male character to appear in the second half of the story. In fact, Richard knew very well that he was going to meet the mage from the Magic Tower. He had been informed of this earlier by the head knight. Yes, according to the Duchy of Etheri, they are preparing something just in case. Besides, the items from the ancient dungeon, there will also be rumors that the saint has disappeared. Something suspicious is going on. Oh, and the Magic Tower, Kane said. The Magic Tower is a huge tower where mages gather. The head of the tower, Richard, had met with the Emperor in the past. Do you really have information about Edgar's blood? The Emperor asked Richard that day. Of course, I will tell you everything. If you will share it with me, of course. Share the wealth, please. Richard asked in response. However, Edward didn't even listen to this guy and massacred him with his sword. Although Edward was well aware that it wasn't fatal, since Richard was a guy with magical powers, Edward also knew that if Richard had arrived back, it meant that he had already healed his wounds. You can't kill him! It's not even that easy, replied his aide, the head knight of the squad, Kane. Okay, but if he shows up again, we have to be ready, argued Edward. However, it wasn't the Emperor himself who had to be ready, but his Empress, Sophia. Back to the present. A robe that reflects all magical attacks is worn today, though the girl herself doesn't know it. My goodness, used a sword from the start. I wouldn't expect anything less, sir, said Richard Ord, who was able to resurrect himself after being hit by a ball from Edward. Yes, sir. Came here to show you something, said the magic lord and opened the box where the stone was. The people around were surprised by such a gift, for indeed this stone had an unusual shape. Someone even said that it looked like a bird's egg. There were many opinions. At this time, the girl who had been reborn into a saint girl was also carefully observing the flow of events. That's right. Of course it looks different to everyone. This is the egg of redemption, after all. Knew the author of the story. It looks different for everyone, and different creatures hatch from it, depending on who touches it. I don't know why Richard is here, but it doesn't matter as long as the egg is here. The author of the book consoled herself. The girl was indeed glad of this coincidence, for everything was going according to her own plan. The inscriptions in the ancient dungeon state the following. When touched by the strongest, it will hatch. How do you see it, sir? Pointed out Richard. So, this is the head of the Mage Tower, Richard, the canon of any main character in short stories, a cold and selfish alchemist, head of the Logic Tower, pondered the girl, looking at the guy. Sir, touch him! Tell me! How do you look at it? Are you curious? The man continued to insist. That's what I thought until I saw it! I will never read novellas with magicians again! At that moment, Sophia came back to her reality from her flight of fantasy. Edward was not a finger-pointing man either. He told Richard that the magic tower was acting suspiciously, yet the guy comes here in person. However, suggested that coming here in person for the guy is an incredible survivability. He swallowed Eugene after all. Richard infuriated Edward so much that the man just couldn't stand it and grabbed this guy's throat with all his might to strangle him. Wait, the words on the inscriptions are true. It only takes one touch, Richard continued to assure. At that moment, Sophia, who was standing nearby silently, thought that this was the end of her work. However, it wasn't that simple. To appease the men, Sophia personally wanted to go and touch that egg. That's when everything around shimmered with an indescribable light. Oh, touched it. But that doesn't make sense. The egg only reacts to the strong. Without a drop of excitement, Richard said. It won't notice an ordinary girl, added the boy, who was absolutely sure of his words. However, what was the mage's surprise when he noticed the redemption egg reacting to the girl? That's when slowly the walls began to burst from the power of the redemption egg. Sir, you need to leave! Immediately, the head knight said as soon as he sensed the danger. But just a moment later, a huge dragon hatched out of its shell in front of all the guests.